Africa has been left behind, a continent mired in poverty. Access to clean water and electricity is still for the privileged few, while over 300 million live on less than $1 a day. We take a former leader and a student on a journey to probe Africa's seemingly intractable problems.
Unless those brains are given free space and
are they the fault of external forces, or have Africans been their own worst enemy?
I'm Rawlings, John Rawlings, and as a profession I took up flying, but I ended up in politics and served my country as the head of state, well, the chairman and the president, for a total of almost 20 years.
The president, the vice president, and all ministers and their deputies are dismissed from office. B, Parliament is dissolved. C, the Council of State is abolished. D, all political parties are proscribed.
This was Jerry Rawlings' second coup. He'd first seized power for 3 months in 1979, toppling what he saw as a corrupt regime and executing some of those considered to be guilty. In 1981, he returned with his mission against corruption.
We can't go on killing and killing and killing.
I don't think one really gains much from having to kill. But the point is that we have set the example. We have shown that we're capable of doing it. I think what we could do is confiscate the property of the rest and send them out to the farms. I mean, to go and work.
Rawlings was authoritarian, but his rule brought dividends. The economy thrived. Then in 1990, the US government sent word that it was time for political reform.
This young gentleman from the State Department, calls on me to let me know that we would have to adopt a Western multi-party democracy. From his tone, he was quite clear that you either accept it or you'll pay a price for it.
Rawlings went on to win 2 consecutive elections. He stayed in power until the year 2000.
I wish I could really retire to rest, because I need it. Because working as hard as we did for almost 20 years was a very tiring job. Besides, I owe it to our people to finish my memoirs. Being president was not my passion. I just took up a fight against injustice. So whether I'm president or not president makes no difference to me.
He still rails against injustice. Rawlings is a leading figure in his National Democratic Congress Party, now in opposition.
Ladies and gentlemen, the resistance, the march we're undertaking in Accra today, in defiance of their bad policies, will not start and end in Accra. The executives are hoping...
His critical stance puts him at odds with the government, which accuses him of fomenting dissent.
The message to this cruel and corrupt government.
Two and a half thousand miles to the east lies another former British colony. Once hailed like Ghana as an African success story, now increasingly burdened by poverty and corruption.
My name is June Arunga and I am 23. I live in Nairobi, where I came to go to boarding school when I was 14. I currently study law in Britain. And these are my parents, Mr. and Mrs. Zombado. I'm the first of 5 kids.
This is her picture when she was little. She was a pretty little baby and very active. She was still horizontal.
Kenya was the playground of white settlers. But in 1963, after violent uprisings, the country gained independence from Britain. A year later, the icon of the liberation struggle, Jomo Kenyatta, was sworn in as president. He ran a one-party state until his death in 1978. Kenyatta's right-hand man, Daniel Arap Moi, succeeded him and clung to power for a quarter of a century. He exploited tribal animosities, while his regime became infected with corruption. Kenya, with its vast potential wealth, was a weakened nation when Moi left office in 2002, 2 years after Jerry Rawlings.
What do you think about me meeting Jerry Rawlings? Like this, I've never met a president before. What do you think about your little baby?
Oh, I remember you met a president before. I remember President Moi.
I did meet the president. But I was really little. I was standing on the roadside and he was coming with this big convoy.
Yes. And he stopped to greet us.
And he greeted us and he
gave
me
you a
box
packet.
of sweets.
Yes, you and your brother Jason.
The funny thing is the president used to give people sweets and money on the roadside.
Former president.
The former president. And it only took, I had to grow up to think, how could he dish out money on the roadside? Like, whose money was it? Then later, I learned that it was a very corrupt government.
Jerry Rawlings is travelling with his wife, Nana. Their journey begins in Tanzania, a peaceful country, yet still it's one of the world's poorest.
It's my first time in Tanzania and I'm actually going to embark on a very interesting journey. I'm going to be spending 2 weeks on the road with the ex-president of Ghana, Jerry Rawlings. And that's something young Africans don't get to do very often. I'm very excited about it, although I'm also pretty scared. I've heard crazy stories about him, but I also hear that he's a very passionate and interesting guy. And it will be interesting to be able to actually, discuss things that people wonder about all the time with somebody who's actually had the responsibility to make a change and who's actually widely viewed as a revolutionary of some kind.
Jerry Rawlings' stay in Tanzania is treated as a state visit. He's assigned an outrider and a motorcade. June takes a more modest form of transport.
How are you?
Very nice to meet you.
What's your name?
My name is June Arunga.
June Arunga.
Yes. I see a very beautiful woman sitting somewhere over there.
Not my woman.
I can't say hello to you.
She's my angel. She's
May
my
I
wife.
please say hello to your angel? When I was a kid, I was born in 81, June. And so I grew up with you as the president of Ghana, because I'm only 23. So, and I think all the little girls in Kenya had a crush on Jerry Rawlings.
All the little girls were?
In Kenya.
Ah.
We didn't know anything about politics or anything. For us, it was just, the lovely couple. Are you from the royal family?
Yes, I am.
Wow. Wow. We have no royalty in Kenya, so the idea of African royalty, no, the idea of African royalty is something, you know, I'm just interfacing with for the first time ever. Wow, a real African queen.
Princess.
Princess.
Once a German colony, the British took over Tanganyika after World War I. At independence, it looked set for a promising future.
It's now almost midnight, and the governor and the Prime Minister, Mr. Nyerere, walk down into the arena to stand near the flagstaff where they will wait for the exact moment of Tanganyika's independence. That's the stroke of midnight tonight, Friday, December the 8th, 1961.
Soon after, Tanganyika and Zanzibar merged to become Tanzania. Julius Nyerere, the president, pioneered the African one-party state. He nationalised banks and factories and collectivised land. Hundreds of thousands were moved into model villages. Chairman Mao welcomed Nyerere with open arms, while Cuba's Fidel Castro came to call. Cold War battles were taking over from colonial rule.
We still carry some of the legacies of the Cold War. We in Africa, we were caught in a hot war, in actual conflicts. And this has cost us a lot in terms of development, has held back the development of Africa, the continent.
And held back it certainly is. Average income across Africa is now lower than at the end of the 1960s. The continent accounts for just 1% of the world's economic output. Tanzania's problems were compounded by its failed socialist experiment.
I wanted us to go to the market because one of the things that concerns me most about our economic development from where I stand is that when I visit other countries, the idea of somebody starting a business, they see themselves in 20 years going global, possibly. When I go back home to visit my mother, the woman who sold us vegetables when I was 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, she still has the same size business. And my question is, how come business doesn't grow here? What is standing in the way of people growing their businesses?
At this market, the stallholders complain that customers are few and trade is slow.
Basi mbona unauza hivi? Si uende ukauza kitu ambacho kuna wateja wanaotaka?
Msingi sina.
Msingi? Msingi manake?
Yaani ni mtaji, fedha.
Eh?
Ni fedha, kufanya biashara nyingine ni hakuna.
Mbona wewe usikopeshwe?
Sijampata mtu kunisaidia.
Benki?
Benki. Benki inatakiwa kwanza mtu uweke fedha alafu ndio unakwenda unakopa.
Na tena uwe na mtu hawezi kukupa pesa kama ajui kama utalipa. Lazima uwe na security ile kama nyumba ama kitu ambao title hivi unawapa.
Kiwanja ni kitu cha msingi ambaye kama unakuwa nacho ndio ni vizuri zaidi yani unapewa mkopo. Sasa kama mimi sijapata mtu kama hiyo. Sijakuwa na kwa hiyo inakuwa ni ngumu ni
Even if he doesn't have any savings or capital to be able to expand his business, is he earning enough money to be able to feed his family, to be able to educate them, to take care of health, needs, books, uniform?
Wanapata hela kula na hela kulipia ada ndogo za shule basi. Hamna kingine cha zaidi.
I mean, is he conscious of the need for family planning? Because, I mean, how else can you take care of your children if you don't have the money? And if you don't have money, you would necessarily have to limit the number of children you have to correspond with the amount that you have to be able to feed them.
Isn't that kind of the other way around?
Yes.
Because I'm thinking if you have 2 mangoes and you have 3 children, the solution is not to get rid of 1 child, it's to grow more mangoes so that you even have extra that you can sell. So the solution is not, I'm all for family planning if somebody chooses to, but the solution is for him to make more money. So the thing is, how can he make more money so he can have as many children as he wants?
I hope we have not disrupted work here with our presence.
Yeah. Lakini mnamjua mgeni amekuja kuwatembelea? Ni nani? Oh, kumbe mnamjua?
I wish you God's blessings and thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Rawlings' populist touch has always gone down well with ordinary Africans, who usually don't get this close to their leaders. They've begun to get a glimpse of one of Africa's fundamental problems, the lack of access to credit. Fishing is a vital industry, but there's little in the way of investment to make it grow.
They're collecting dues?
I think so, taxes.
Taxes? The revenue collected?
No.
Oh, lovely, madam. Oh, you don't want to be filmed?
They are not fishermen. They are coming to lend money to the fishermen, you know, for great profit. They are money lenders.
Wow, I wouldn't have.
They have their book.
Yes.
They have their book. You have your name in there. They come and collect their little fees every day. And if you can't pay today, tomorrow you pay double. It's a multiple interest system. That's why she doesn't want to be sure. We have them in Ghana too. In Ghana, what we tried to do was to do the Susu system.
What is that?
It's a system where those who are actually working contribute something every day out of your sales. Maybe you sell 2 shillings, you contribute maybe 5 pence. And at the end of the month, it's given to one person as their capital. And it goes around everybody. That's what they do. And it's working very well to such an extent that more educated people have picked the system and they are using it for small financial banking systems in Ghana. So they are lending.
And those are growing?
Very, very fast.
That's
and almost threatening the
banks.
Established commercial banks. Oh, yes.
Wow.
I love water. I've been trying to fish most of my life, but somehow I've never caught a fish. Not yet. No, but I like scuba diving, you know. I enjoy the serenity of being in the water at the bottom of it. I mean, just like flying. You're cut away from the humbug of the world, you know. Fishes are sweet and gentle. The water is sweet and gentle and refreshing.
A capsized boat has been allowed to block the entrance to the port.
What's happening there? Are they trying to tow that boat out? Look, I know in every fishing community you have divisions, you have rivalries and things like that, okay? But if we're allowing the division and the rivalry amongst us to create an obstacle here, we're the ones who suffer.